Hey there, Ryan Thompson, Aryan Film Buff, and today we will be looking at a film from
Jack
2013
Reacher.
Jack
called
Reacher.
Jack Reacher.
Jack
CBGBs.
Reacher. Nice to see. So tied on me.
Late Alan Rickman.
Jack Reacher. 7 bodies since you set foot in my town.
I'm gonna uncover this whole operation.
This is a film that really showcases how astroturfed punk was and just the attempt at sort of, perpetuating social decay and degeneration that the punk movement was, and the heavily Semitic elements of it as well.
Comes home, she'll make me shut it off. All right, well, I'm doing her a favor then.
It's an illustrator for a magazine that became prominent in the CBGBs thing. And of course, whatever revolutions are allowed are astroturfed. Some obnoxious editing in this film here. Skip ahead. The guy who started this club was basically a bum. Hilly Crystal was his name. So, and basically wanders around, this eroded and decayed post-1960s New York. Does a great job of showing the decay in the urban blight, which is a direct result of the social upheaval and chaos and economic dislocation brought on by the 60s. The film doesn't acknowledge that directly, but it does showcase the fact that the city was basically bankrupt. And Hilly walks around with his dog, steps on his dog's shit quite a bit, has a real shaky friend who's a junkie, expresses an interest in starting up a club. He's, dependent on his mother, who's more financially conscious. He has a friend who, it's not exactly clear, Merv Ferguson is his name. Does he pretend to be English, or is he actually? It wasn't really made clear to me, anyway. We also have an aspect in this film where of the strong woman mentality, where the daughter is very intelligent and very resourceful, as opposed to the father who's completely inept. So it's not done as aggressively as maybe if the film was done now. They start building and they get the club put together. The soundtrack, much of it is quite good. And you have Johnny Galecki as the sort of Jew promoter, financier who wants to get in on this. Terry Ork is his name.
Here you have a stage. We have a band.
The perfect band to perform on your stage.
What kind of music do you play?
New music.
What does CBGBs stand for?
Country, bluegrass, blues.
They play a little of that. A little rock, a little country, a little bluegrass, a little blues. Hey, didn't you used to manage
And so there's this obnoxious comic book editing where they do all these comic book things and stuff like that. Gets a friend who's a sound engineer, and they play. They have this group called Television that comes and performs. His junkie friend gets in trouble, and they help him. He has these sort of biker friends who are like from the South or something who have his back.
Police took a guy for murder today.
You ever heard?
He didn't do it. Plays the violin. They call him Idaho.
Yeah, the little guy.
Yeah, he's that junkie.
I'd like to.
And they help get his junkie friend out of jail. And also basically violently intimidate the people who he is in debt to. They don't just like debt for other people, it's sometimes how they live themselves. Especially ones as low on the totem pole as Hilly here. They get jobs moving pianos and furniture to try and supplement the club. And of course, his daughter has all of the financial sense, and he has none. The self-conscious punk attitude gets fairly in your face and on the nose as the film goes along. Rickman really struggles with the accent. They act like, people need a meaning at this point in time, but you're not going to get there with the kind of degeneracy that they're promoting, which I guess is inadvertent in his case because he actually wanted CBGBs to be sort of this country blues venue or, what have you. And there's just a lot of showcase of grossness. There's like a lot of stepping on dog shit, a lot of like, grossed out food with, snot in it, just all those sorts of things. It's, sort of like so much of what we see with the degenerate left these days, sort of a celebration of grossness. You have not only Rickman struggling with the English accent, but this British journalist who the Jew illustrator who's, and I guess that's where the comic book theme comes in, is because ultimately he's going to be the one designing this magazine for CBGBs, and it has sort of this comic book graphic novel vibe. And then you have this woman journalist, I think Mary Herron is her name. She's played by a lady named Anna O'Reilly, and she really struggles with the accent. And of course, John Holmstrom is played by Josh Zuckerman.
I always thought a punk was someone who took it up the ass.
He said they
Some words from Burroughs there. Club starts to take off, and the next thing you know, Blondie's there. I think this, and then Malin Akerman plays her. I don't know about the real early life on Deborah Harry. Their music was okay. She's just kind of like portrayed as a total whore in this thing, which may or may not be true. I would guess is true. Another important thing to note here is there was with Hilly, and things like that. Of course, he was completely written off by this point, but there were some ties with intelligence agencies, which is briefly showcased in Dave McGowan's book because of his indirect connection to some of the later Laurel Canyon acts. But intelligence was all over a lot of the punk stuff too, and wouldn't surprise me with CBGBs a way to spread and promote more chaos in an already chaotic environment.
Thank you. You like my shorts? New York has gorgeous garbage.
Whatever the hell that means. And then, of course, perhaps not as slutty, but way less attractive and more disgusting is Patti Smith. I remember seeing there's I forget the guy's name, but there's some documentary that was brought to my attention that some people in dissident circles really appreciate. And it definitely has some good stuff in it, even though there's some, basic left-wing cringe. And it's this movie called Hypernormalization, and just sort of totally in line with and characteristic of the mentality and the attitude that's portrayed in the film. This documentary, Hypernormalization, actually has Patti Smith sort of running around and celebrating the chaos and the decay and the instability and the economic malaise and, the inability for, any kind of stable economy or family structure, sort of embracing the atomization and the, individuation and the chaos of New York at that time, which of course this whole scene is endemic of. And you have this scene here where she starts reading, her pretentious poetry, and even these people aren't having it. Some woman named Mickey Sumner plays her.
As long as the blade has not yet pierced this brain, this fat and greenage package of listless vapors. Shut the fuck up! This is art. This is Rambo. And it's the only sustenance life might ever give you. So eat up, motherfuckers!
I'm guessing that's probably pretty true to form for her. And, of course, then we have, I guess because he sort of fits in with this cast of characters, we have Iggy Pop and, gay sex talk. Somebody named Taylor Hawkins plays him, and then Brad Whitford's in the movie is, some sort of coked up, sort of obnoxious promoter. And, so yeah, then there's this.
Hey, Iggy.
Hey, Art.
Let's go downstairs. I'll give you a hand.
Why don't you just lick my stomach? Everybody wants to suck my cock.
All right.
And, of course, that's just, obligatory to, normalize the gay shit. Quite innocent by today's standards, really. And, of course, something that the film belatedly in the credits acknowledges is Iggy Pop was never part of the thing at CBGBs, but he definitely would have fit in them in terms of being, atonal, sort of bilge. And then, they run into Lou Reed. Kyle Gallner plays him. And, of course, he's just very cynical and ironic. And, ooh, isn't that so cool? And then, speaking of, psyops, gay ops, and all of that kind of stuff, we have the Ramones here who, early life with deep ties to Mossad and, they're just as engaging as human beings as anybody else we've met so far.
A lot of things you don't want to do.
Yeah,
Anything you want to do.
we're working on something now.
Something positive.
Yeah, it's called I Want to Sniff Some Glue.
Good to have a point of view.
apparently, according to this, the band kind of sucked. That's according to them. I don't know. And then Deborah Harry talks about how she wishes she'd invented sex. He gets really sweet on this group called the Dead Boys and tries to promote them, which of course doesn't go well because they're totally impulsive and chaotic, and they end up in a fight, and one of them almost ends up dead. But we have some and he has this cop friend who's sort of looking the other way with some of their chaotic stuff, but getting paid off. One of the Dead Boys gets blown by some random woman in the audience. Of course, he's racking up the debts, and his responsible daughter is the only one who seems to care. And then we have a piece of serious predictive programming at some point here where the, of course, not actually conscious of all the ridiculous myths around a certain event in mid-century Germany and around the mid-century Germans that are perpetuated and shoved down our throats. These are just, they're not even conscious and aware of that. These are just punks that are looking to offend people. And, of course, can't remember if it's a friend or a relative, but one of Hilly's Jewish friends, relatives, Jenya Raven, Stana Katich plays her, and everything like that, begins to reprimand them because, of course, as some of the punks did, they have, Nazi symbolism and iconography on their stuff, and has to give them a lecture about a certain event in mid-century which didn't happen.
What the fuck is that?
What?
Get rid of those fucking things.
They're just stickers.
Hilly, your manager. Hey, Hilly, your manager, the guy who is footing the bill for all of this, he's Jewish. Me, your producer, I'm Jewish. And the guy who owns this studio, who is doing us a favor by letting us report at these ridiculous prices, he's got numbers tattooed on his arm. Do you know what that means?
Not really.
That you're a lying cunt, probably, is what that means. But anyway, not probably, definitely. Anyway, so stuff gets crazy with the Dead Boys. I mentioned that earlier. And, he goes to bat for them, even though they were, complete, even though they were complete irresponsible assholes, and he sort of has sort of a crisis of conscience. He grew up on this farm somewhere in New Jersey, and needless to say, left that life behind a long time ago, and so I was wondering if it wouldn't just be better to get back to all of that. And there's somewhere else there, where his family and folks used to be. Of course, we're quite removed from all of that experience at this point. And then, because he's done so much, to promote music acts and because as irresponsible as he is in his own way, he's unselfish. They sort of, homeless junkie guy who pretends to be Merv Ferguson, guy who pretends to be English or maybe is, and then the woman who is just lecturing people about a made-up event in mid-century Germany. She's there, and they're all like, hey, we've got your back. And so it continues on, and then he died about 15 years ago, I guess, and got his due credit when the Talking Heads, who were one of these groups, were inducted in the Hall of Fame. It sort of ends with, the Police having one of their concerts there. And again, to go back to what we talked about earlier, not only does Hilly have ties to intelligence, but the Police's drummer, Stuart Copeland, big background with the military and intelligence stuff. So, and I'm certainly not the first one to talk about, psyop elements and intelligence elements with the punk scene. At least here in America, I don't know about. Well, no, in England as well. So that was that. And see if I got anything in there. Yeah, they whine about Nixon in there, because reasons to basically perpetuate, the myth that somehow he was the threat when he was confronting the people that were the threat. Actually ended the Vietnam War. You got some, let me see if I'll find that here. You got some tranny predictive programming there early on when the club starts, where some twisted freak who looks like Lady MAGA said he wishes he had a vagina. So, they knew where things were going. This movie was made almost a decade ago. But they're getting there. And Hilly had this crazy idea of, having actual musicians there. Or was that always his plan? That's something else to think about. Major simping multiple times in this film. And what's bizarre with some of the implications around various famous people in this film is that, whenever you try to say celebrities are part of a down low or a gay underground, they always cry foul. Then they say it, and it's a joke and open secret. As with so many things, the left acts like it's a crazy conspiracy theory, and then they say, oh yeah, that happened, and so what? Or it's great. And, they mentioned stuff about, like, Ford folding up and, jobs and stuff like that disappearing, which was very much, an issue at this time. And it's like, well, there was a Ford who cared about his fellow citizens, and they ran him out of town because anti-Semitism, which the film, ironically, has to take a piss on. And let's see. Yeah, Wayne County was the name of the band with the guy who wishes he had a vagina. Billy tries to take some initiative, but of course, he pays for it because women always right, don't respect your parents, etc. Multiple sex scenes, most of them Jewesses, but, at least they don't hate men better than millennials, though, like I said, you do have some of that going on. Yeah. I had a thing here. What's her name? Ketich character, I forget the character she plays. Needs to read Robert Forreston. Yeah, and then, he doesn't keep his own financial house in order. He's not even a good Jew, a sort of rebel among the Jews. Maybe that's why I kind of like the guy. Of course, we got some circumcision jokes in it. Let's see. And I mean, the whole thing there of, hey, Hilly's the one who's financing you, I'm the one who's promoting you and stuff like that. It's like they admit it. This is astroturfed. They want to control you. Punk isn't about being an outlaw. It's about catering to the sensibilities of who runs this whole shtick. And this is a problem. What happens when subversion involves subverting what the illiberal establishment holds the most dear, like certain myths that we talked about in mid-century Germany? Then they shut the shit down. These things, these so-called outlaw movements don't happen when they're actually outlawed. They are put down. And it's like all they understand is debt. You get a very clear impression of that from what we've watched. And someone talks about, getting exposure on the Rolling Stone, and I just thought to myself, what a farcical thing that magazine has become. That's back when that meant something. So yeah, this has been interesting, and I enjoyed making it, and I will see you guys very soon. Sorry there's been a delay. I've been so busy, but I'm going to be uploading a lot more stuff now.